Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. Today is the day that I hear Jethro Tull for the first time, and I have no idea what to expect. I know that Jethro Tull is a rock band, British rock band, that originated in 1967, I believe. And they've released 21 studio albums to date, with the 22nd coming out soon. So they've got quite the longevity and track record. But I have to shout out a big thank you to our patrons, because without the patron poll and your votes, I don't think I would have heard Jethro Tull. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for recommending this to us today. And thank you especially for recommending the song Aqualung. As I was going through the background and lyrics, I was struck by how applicable they are today. I think the song was written in the 1970s, and it's essentially about our reaction to the homeless population, which is still a very big concern, I think, in society today. So I'm excited to hear how this is expressed in music. Let's get to it.
Hey, sitting on the pumpkin stool, eyed little girls, riff and intent. Stopped flattening down his nose, that crazy paper smearing shabby clothes. Hey, Aqualung, he's crying in the cold sun. Whoa. Watching as a friendly.
Okay. This is really different still from what I was imagining. So this is just fascinating. What a good suggestion. What a way to expand the horizons. He looks a little bit nuts. Not gonna lie, his eyes are huge. The hair's kind of flying everywhere. And he's really acting it out. But I want to mention, I know that Ian Anderson, who is the lead vocalist, I think he's the guy we're hearing right now. He is very anti-drugs. So at first, my first thought was oh, whoa, he looks kind of doped up. But I understand he's very much against drugs. So I think that what he's doing is actually just really playing this part and making it more theatrical to help bring that message across. I want to go back to the beginning because it's just hard. The first moment you hear a voice, you're like, what's happening here? Very interesting melodic line there. It doesn't feel like it's a beautiful lyric melody. It definitely is leaning towards storytelling. And yeah, it's different. It's different. Okay, let's go here maybe.
Hey, sitting on the pumpkin stool, eyed little girls, riff and intent. Stopped flattening down his nose, that crazy paper smearing shabby clothes. Hey, Aqualung, he's crying in the cold sun, watching as a friendly path is run. Hey, Aqualung, he's feeling like a dead duck, spitting out pieces of his broken heart. Hey, Aqualung.
A few things to mention here. Aqualung, first of all, is referring to a homeless man who essentially has problems breathing, right? Snot's running down his nose. We're talking about that. Feeling like a dead duck, spitting out pieces of his broken luck. These lyrics are very vivid. And it's interesting to have Ian's voice on this, which sometimes is really clean, and then sometimes it's a little grit in it as well. And he also is tossing off a lot of words they're just slightly spoken. Yeah, it's a good combo, I think, to deal with the pretty and the dirty side of life both.
sun streaking clouds. I know now wandering lonely, taking time the only way he knows. Black curtain bands as he bends to pick a target. When it goes down till the bar and warms his feet.
I'm very interested in like the way he is really fully in the character, but it's also just in his performance. He's very, it feels like it's flowing, right? Like it doesn't feel like he's being taken out of it at any moment. It's interesting to me that you have essentially a very strong electronic sound in the first part of the song, and then this acoustic moment, right? So Ian is singing and playing at the same time, clearly, and it has a much lighter feel all of the sudden. I think this was the sun streaking cold section, which makes sense. You know, it's a lot more simple, just appreciating some of the beautiful things in life. He's very expressive in his voice, very great enunciation, highlighting a lot of the diphthongs for sure. Let's keep going.
Feeling alone, the armies of the roads, salvation and a bone, and a cup of tea.
This is my favorite part so far.
Salvation and a bone, and a cup of tea.
I want you guys to guess down in those comments below, or in live chat if you're there with us right now, why that was my favorite part.
Aqualung, my friend, don't you start away uneasy, or your poor old heart, you see, it's only me.
His voice is not classically beautiful. It is really, it's much more nasal, has a lot of forward placement, but then I hear some loft in it at the same time. So it's like, it's coming, it sounds like maybe his soft palate is down a little bit more, so you hear it in that nasal area quite a bit. But you can hear, or I've heard him already go into some different colors as well, so it's not always there. I wonder if he'll switch to that when he's in that softer moment to have more cut. I'm not sure. But it's very interesting to me that you have this guy who has not a classically pretty voice, who has just learned how to use it to communicate a message very, very strongly. Message is more important than your unique foundational timbre. Okay, over and over, I have to tell people this. Don't try to sound like somebody else. Be uniquely yourself. And if you do that and you communicate message, who knows, you might end up having a huge, long career, like a Johnny Cash at the end of his years, and hurt. You know, he's not classically beautiful as well. And this is a great example of somebody who's very focused on the message.
You still remember December's foggy breeze, when the ice that hangs onto your beard was screaming agony. You said you had pulling our friends, the deep sea dial sounds, and the flowers bloom like madness in heaven's spring. Sun streaking cold, I know we're wandering lonely, taking time the only way he goes.
Yes, such expressive eyes. And hair too. The hair is very expressive, like the tossing. His eyes are really expressive. If you are more expressive in your face in communication, your voice will be more expressive too. Same thing with painting things with hands. It's a very good way to add expression to the sound. I'm intrigued by the different chapters of music that we've had so far. It feels like this feels more progressive. That's not coming back to your standard 4-chord with verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus sort of setup. It's got a different structure overall, and it feels like it's really taking us down a different and more unique journey.
Like hurting bands, as you down just a pink guitar end. When it goes down to the bottom warms his feet. I'm feeling alone. The army's up on the road. Salvation and a bone and a cup of tea.
He brought it back, and a cup of tea. Yes, that's awesome. I want to go back to some of these lyrics here. So in the previous verse a little bit, the sun streaking cold, an old man wandering lonely, taking time the only way he knows, leg hurting bad as he bends to pick a dog end. He goes down to the bog and warms his feet. Whoa. I know that I've had a number of people close to me. I'm thinking one in particular that was homeless for quite a while, and she told me that one of the most difficult things about it was the boredom, essentially, and that's the reason a lot of homeless people end up turning to drugs, is to try and stave off the boredom. And obviously this is talking about homelessness from a different era, so I'm sure there were other problems as well. But I think taking time the only way he knows, that's really interesting to me about how does a homeless person spend time? Where, like, what does that feel like? And certainly I know that feed care is the big thing that comes up as well. Yeah, man, we need to care for our homeless population more.
Don't you start away and easy. When you pour out salt, you see it's over the
I'm gonna say that guitar solo was really fun. I like the energy in it. Definitely some cool sounds. It makes me want to play guitar. But I also don't know much about guitar, so I don't have a whole lot of comments to talk about that or analyze it. Maybe I'll start taking guitar lessons so that I can give you guys better analysis on guitar. I'm thinking about it. Okay, but that was a really fun guitar solo. Really, really, really fun. I liked the way it evolved a bunch, right? It feels very satisfying to go through different ranges of the guitar like that and just hang out in one area and then just keep jamming along. Yeah, it's cool. Oh, interesting. I'm going to go back a little bit because I could feel that guitar solo was wrapping up, but I want to get that sense of transition a little more. It felt very abrupt, but I think it would feel a bit different within the context. So interesting. He's I was wondering what he was doing. He flicks his head back a lot. I was like, what is that for? And I think that is sometimes to abruptly stop his sound. So he's not cutting it off at the vocal folds, but he like abruptly leaves you feeling empty, like the voice just suddenly escaped. And it would make a like essentially like a very small fade at the end if he's backing away from the mic just before he ends the note, rather than hearing the sound like of the vocal folds stopping. That's really interesting. Fascinating. And let's talk a little bit about that resonant and placement again. Clearly we have a lot of nasality happening in that, but it definitely sounds like he's using more of that head voice. We're talking classical terminology here, so head voice, not falsetto, but the upper part of the modal voice, or the voice that men use to speak in. So upper part of that head voice, where the cricothyroids are more active than the thyroarytenoids. Those are just two different muscle groups in your larynx. So it sounds like he's got a really lovely top-down approach, and it sounds like it's coming from here and going forward. So it doesn't sound like the sound is getting caught up in his throat anywhere. Sometimes you get a little bit of texture or just like a teensy bit of grit from the throat. Right now he's creating a sound that is fairly relaxed. It sounds like it's got not a lot of vocal tension whatsoever, which is probably also why they've been able to sustain a very, very long career. I don't hear vocal tension there. I hear just an amazing ping of sound that almost feels like it starts from up here. So that'd be like the first point of resonance or buzz, feels like it's fairly high. And then it's just directed out this way. So he has some laser in that sound and some nasality in it, but he's got this height and just like a little bit of depth in there as well. Very, very nice. Let's go back one more time, see if you can hear those things too. Very far forward in the mask here.
Aqualung, my friend, don't you start away uneasy, or you pour out hearts, or you see it's only for me. Oh, you know it's only for me.
Ooh. Oh, cool. I like that they're bringing back that initial riff. That's been the like melodic part that has stuck with me the most so far. And I really love this contrast that they're very aware of doing, of saying, okay, we're going to take a moment with an acoustic sound. And something that feels very sustained in the vocal line, except for when he does a quick back away from the mic. It's very interesting. Yeah, again, that placement is really so far forward in the mask. He doesn't have to stay there. There's like a section when he did almost a Middle Eastern ornamentation, and you could hear it drop back a little bit, whereas like, oh, he has access to that. Like the depth is there, but he's actively choosing to keep that very, very far forward placement. Okay, let's go back. Is this where the riff starts?
Sitting on the park bench, white little girls with bad intent. Slots running down his nose.
I want to figure out what these notes are. Yeah. I was thinking that this is such a strange set of notes to choose to riff over. It's basically, you have it's going from the top note down a fifth, and then it comes up and lingers on this half step below the starting note. These two notes together are creating an augmented fourth, and an augmented fourth is one of the most disturbing intervals that's out there. It's just like, it creates tons of tension. You see it more often placed in horror films, or whenever somebody's trying to create tension. Could happen in any sort of action movie as well. But this feeling of like, right, it makes you go like, ooh, that does not sound beautiful like this, or sad like this. If they'd done this instead, that would have been totally different. And that's just choosing not to flat the starting note. That is such an interesting and creative and bold and daring decision. And that's partly, I think, why they also repeat it a bunch, because then it gets stuck in your head. So you realize like, oh yeah, this is the lick, this is the riff, this is the thing we repeat over and over when we think of this song. I mean, I think it is. That's the one that's stuck in my head. So let's go back and listen to that. Man, I'm developing a huge appreciation for that.
Stop running down his nose, yeah. My crazy fingers smearing shabby clothes. Hey, he's lying in the cold sun, watching as a friendly ambulance run. Hey, that feeling like a dead duck, snatching out pieces of his broken lung. Hey, Aqualung.
And also realize there's no pitch correction whatsoever on this. I think it's very interesting. He's very specific with pitch, and specific when he's expressing off of the pitch as well. I am digging the grittiness that you hear in his voice as he's describing this situation of sitting on a park bench. And it's back to, I think these are the same words that were at the beginning. It's not running down the nose. Man, it gives you, yeah, it feels like a little window into that life. What a good subject for a song. Oh man. And there you go. Expressive eyes. Super expressive eyes. Man.
Snatching out pieces of his broken lung. Hey, Aqualung.
Let's go back to that moment. That's a really great moment of him bringing in more dome in his sound. So he essentially, it sounds like he's lifted his soft palate a lot more right here. That was such a cool way to end the song. I love that raising pitch, the way that it seems like Ian was conducting that with his hands. He's very connected with his audience in the way he's engaging with his eyes, but also you could see as he's looking at the audience, like trying to convince them to clap faster, clap together with it. I love that feeling, this huge raise. It's in the instruments. It's also in the drums as they essentially cling on a cymbal a little bit more and roll that, creating this like higher whoosh kind of pitch as well. Fascinating. It feels like, I don't know, maybe he died and went to heaven. It feels like there's a certain raising of a spirit at the end. This was such a fascinating voice and song to me. The musically, it's extremely intricate and, like I said, bold. I really think about where was music when this was composed. I think this was composed in the 70s, and I feel like it feels later. It feels like it comes from a different, like more progressive set of rock later as well. I think that they did move into prog rock at some point, so that makes sense. But this feels much later to me than the 70s still. And very, very curious that people wanted me to look at his voice in particular. I think it's a very unique sound. And I love that he embraces that unique sound, right? And is really using it to, again, bring across that message, a message that has a lot of pain and grit in it. Not like pain, like painkiller pain, but there's a sharpness to it. But then you hear at different moments that he's able to have that loft in his voice. So I wonder what his other things sound like. Does he add more loft into that, or does he stay very forward? Whatever he does, it sounds like it's uniquely him. I dig that. I would much rather have a sound that is uniquely a person than trying to make them sound like someone else. We don't need to be like each other. I love that. I love that diversity in voices too. So really, really cool suggestion. Thank you, patrons. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for introducing me to a band that has made 21 studio albums, of which I've heard none before. So this was such a fun first taste. And please, everybody, if you would like to comment and leave a suggestion for what you would like to hear on the channel, I would love to read that. And we look for those suggestions down below in the comments of our YouTube videos. You can also come and say hello to me in the live chat when we do premieres of videos here on YouTube. That's Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m. Arizona time. And if you want to just hang out or play video games, you can also find me on Patreon. Or if you want to learn more about music and what makes things like that augmented fourth so cool, I have a course about music appreciation at thecharismaticvoice.com. I hope to see you soon.